Taurus, this is your week ahead astrology forecast from Astrology Motivation by Born Without Boundaries. Be sure to check out your week ahead tarot card reading for Taurus as well. This reading is going to cover all the major planetary aspects and transits and how they impact your natal sun. Now, I don't know where your natal sun is located. I'm depending on you two. I will try to tell you estimated dates, which could relate to where your natal sun is located, but your natal sun is located on one of the 30 degrees in the zodiac sign of Taurus. And if you have your natal chart, it's real easy because it'll tell you which degree it's located on. Getting your natal chart is pretty easy as well. If you want to quickly go do that because you're curious, you can run a free natal report on so many different websites. Just search free natal report, and all you'll need is your birth date, your birth time, and your birth location. You plug in that information. All that stuff is on your birth certificate, by the way, really not hard to find. You plug in that information and it'll spit out a natal chart. And yes, your natal sun will be listed and it'll tell you which degree it sits on. So if your natal sun sits between 0 and 9 degrees Taurus, your natal sun is in the first decan or group of 10 degrees of Taurus, and so you are Taurus 1. If your natal sun sits between 10 and 19 degrees, you are Taurus 2. And if your natal sun sits between 20 and 29 degrees, you are Taurus 3. There's a big difference between the beginning and end, and especially, and all these different sections have different relationships with the same planet. So it's really important to know where your natal sun is located because it's not all the same, because everything in astrology is really determined by angles, and a 30-degree difference is really a big difference when it comes to angles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start really broad and just go over the major things that are happening and that are going to impact everybody. And then I'll whittle that down more specifically into how they're going to impact you, and then specific things that are going to impact all Tauruses. And then I will get really specific and divide everything up by the 3 decans. But I strongly advise you to listen to all the reading, the whole reading, or all 3, because especially if your natal sun is on the cusp of one or the other, and there's a lot of energies that are changing decans now, so it's kind of important to listen to the whole thing just in case. The big thing that's happening this week is the new moon. This week, by the way, it was in the thumbnail, it was in the title, April 13th to the 19th of 2023. So those are the dates that we're covering, 13th through the 19th. And what's going to happen on the 19th, late at night, or depending on where you are on the globe, early morning on the 20th, we have a new moon in Aries. It's the second new moon in Aries during this season, which means it's the second time that the moon has conjunct the sun while the sun was in Aries. So that's a phenomenon that we know as the double moon. Anytime there is 2 new moons in that occur in the same season, so the sun is in the same zodiac sign, we call the second one the double moon. So this is a double moon, and it's even more special because we're getting into eclipse season. So this is a new moon with a solar eclipse. We won't be able to see it. Northern Hemisphere, United States, we're not going to be able to see the solar eclipse. But if you're in parts of India and Australia, you're going to get a really beautiful view of a solar eclipse that starts out as an annular solar eclipse and then goes into a complete or total eclipse and then goes back to an annular eclipse. An annular, if I'm saying that right, I hope, is a solar eclipse that looks like a bright ring with a dark center, because the moon is the dark center blocking that out, and you can see the ring that's coming from the sun. But during this time, the Earth's position shifts, the moon is shifting, it's all shifting, and so the moon grows and blocks out the sun completely, and then it goes back to just being the ring around. So it goes from annular to total to annular, and I think it's going to be probably a wonderful phenomenon to witness. So if you have any video footage of it, please protect your eyes, do all the things you're supposed to do during a solar eclipse. If you can get all this on video, that would be awesome. What does it mean astrologically? Well, a solar eclipse is a dark time for the ego, but it's more of a time, it's less of bad things happening and more of I need to go within and I need to see who I am. And I need to understand the dark aspects of my character and kind of review or face those things that I'm trying to hide. A solar eclipse is really going to make you confront those darker aspects of you, or those things that might have brought shame. It doesn't mean you should have felt ashamed. It just means that you might, right? And a new moon begs us to start over and completely fresh. Another big aspect that's happening same day is that the new moon is square to Pluto. So we have a new moon square to Pluto, which means that these new things that are starting, these new changes, they're extreme and we're never going to go back to the old ways. Pluto is absolutely going to make sure that there's no way that anything old slips by. This is an absolute fresh start that you cannot come back from. And this solar eclipse is partially telling us that we're going to confront those things that we've been ashamed of. We're going to confront those aspects of who we are that we feel aren't good enough for other people or for even ourselves. And we're going to go through a catharsis of sorts, which means a completion of having to feel that way, a completion of having to think about ourselves that way, ending that and giving ourselves a real fresh start. And maybe even in terms of the social realm, getting that fresh start that we so desperately need. So this is a really big moment. I think one of the biggest moments this year because of that square to Pluto, new moon, second new moon in the same zodiac sign, all of those things. This is a real special moment and a complete reset. Like, it's legitimately the butterfly coming out of the cocoon kind of moment. You're never going to go back to crawling on a log. You're different now. And it's what you were supposed to be. Accepting who you are now. Instead of what you dreamed or feeling ashamed because you thought things should have gone different. No, it's about looking forward and appreciating the resources in front of you, forgiving yourself, forgiving others, and letting that shit go. So this is a really beautiful time. And we'll get into how that is going to affect Taurus in particular. Another thing that's happening this week is Mercury is in Taurus. Mercury and Uranus are conjuncting in Taurus. And this is brilliant energy. This is going to affect specific ones of you, Taurus, really like extreme, because it's conjuncting your natal sun. When Mercury conjuncts Uranus, there's almost a sense of genius filtering through and being messaged or disseminated to the masses. There is a sense of could be some big technological communications breakthrough. It could be some technological or super genius announcement, or it could just be a big social or public aha moment that changes the game. Uranus wants to make this breakthrough. It wants to tell people, and it's trying to make these changes, and it wants to make it very clear. So watch out this week, because we could get some major public, social, national news. We also have the conjunction between Jupiter and the Sun. And yes, this is happening during the new moon. In fact, the new moon, because the moon is conjunct the Sun, it's also conjunct Jupiter. That makes it even more special. Conjunct Jupiter, square to Pluto. This is a huge bust out breakthrough opportunity, and nothing's going to be the same again. But all week long leading up to the new moon, the Sun is going to be conjunct Jupiter. The Sun conjunct Jupiter brings a lot of, like, a mixed bag. It's optimistic, it brings courage, it brings creativity, and it brings faith in oneself, right? But it also brings big-headedness, cockiness, thinking that you're better at things or deserve more than you actually do. So as long as you can stay grounded, you can use that energy to help advance yourself instead of handicap yourself. FYI. That's all happening in Aries. You should always make sure that you know where Venus is, because Venus is your ruling dignitary, Taurus. And last week, she moved from Taurus to Gemini. She moved from Taurus to Gemini on the 11th. So actually, it's not even been a full week. But she's already headed toward, so she's already going to make her way through the first decan of Gemini. And while she does this, she is going to be semi-square to Jupiter when Jupiter is conjuncting the new moon. So there could be some issues when it comes to finance or financial systems or financial situations. We'll see how that turns out, but she's definitely having a little bit of a tense time, especially during that new moon. Let's go into the decans, shall we? So Mercury is in Taurus, and so is Uranus. This week, between the 13th and the 19th, Mercury is going to move between 13 degrees and 15 degrees Taurus. Now that surprised me, but then I remembered this is Mercury's shadow period before it's retrograde on the 21st. So Mercury is moving slower than it usually does, because Mercury would usually cover a lot more ground in a week than just a couple of degrees. But it's already slowing down, which means you will start to feel that, especially if you are Decan 2, Taurus 2. So that's usually birthdays between, say the first week and a half of May. If you have your birthday around the first week and a half of May, you guys are going to see that you're going to start to feel the Mercury retrograde already, because it's conjunct your natal sun. And Uranus is at 17 degrees Mercury, so it's in Decan 2 of Taurus as well. And that's also conjunct your natal sun. You guys, Taurus 2s, will be conjunct the Mercury-Uranus conjunction that happens basically all weeks from like the 14th through the 19th. This is some brilliant revelation that's happening. This is huge aha moments. This is your genius through the roof, and the mental clarity is ridiculous. I would love to invent something, create something, communicate something, take a test. I mean, you might fail the test because you completely reinvent mathematics and get to the correct answer in a way that nobody else can understand. This is such mental acuity. Enjoy it, love it, and use it to its fullest extent. Taurus 2s. Your natal sun is also during this time sextile to Mars. Mars is in Cancer, and your natal sun is conjunct this Uranus-Mercury conjunction and sextile to Mars. So there is definitely a sense of figuring things out, understanding things, mental clarity, mental acuity, and taking action on it, using it to move forward, and it providing some sort of breakthrough opportunity for you. So whatever aha moment you have, this is a game changer, maybe a life changer, and definitely trust it, because it's the universe sending you a blessing. Amen. Taurus 1s, and this is definitely those Tauruses who are born at the end of April. So if you are an April Taurus, you are certainly a Taurus 1. You're getting a lot of stuff going on. Your natal sun is conjunct the North Node, and if you're born on the Gemini Taurus cusp, your natal sun is conjunct this new moon that is happening. So all of that is quite personal and absolutely ridiculously, completely game-changing for you. It's a catharsis. Not feeling ashamed anymore. That's going to be done. It's going to be over with. You're not going to be afraid to move forward into this new skin that you now are proud of having. Your natal suns, Taurus 1, are also sextile to Saturn, which means this could provide major opportunities in career or figuring out which career you actually want to have or be in. Whether you're 50 years old, it doesn't matter. This is your chance to have the career that you actually love or make a major breakthrough. And then we have you square to Pluto. Yeah, square to Pluto, because this new moon is square to Pluto, because the North Node is square to Pluto. I mean, basically, no more old. Just a sense of you've got to go with the new. Dynamic switch, dynamic change, and a push from the universe to get there. One that you can't ignore and one that might be a little bit uncomfortable for you. You've got to face those squares and allow it to release the energy by learning from it. But I think that this is a major life change for you. It marks a major life change, and definitely career openings for you. Now, that square to Pluto, your natal suns are going to be square to Pluto for quite some time, maybe for the next year. But what this is going to do is really catalyze the newness. And then the rest of the year, it is going to be you getting used to it and you adapting to it. And there's going to be dynamic changes in your life that help you harmonize with the new version of yourself instead of the old one. The sextile to Saturn is longer term as well, so you can expect that there are definitely going to be changes in you, but opportunities opening the door to help you with your career. Interesting. Taurus 3s, you guys actually have a peaceful peaceful kind of week. Your natal suns are sextile to Neptune, and this is a long-term transit. So honestly, this is just creativity, beauty, open-heartedness, tenderness, sweetness, kindness, a gentleness, and a sort of psychic acuity that you have now that will surprise you. It will yield surprises to you and it actually change your belief system. This is a deep connection to faith and your faith growing and maybe shifting to something that's more sincerely you as opposed to traditionally something that you had to follow. So I hope you loved this information, and I really want to know how you're reacting to it and how it's impacting you. Please do leave the comments below. Remember to subscribe to this channel so that you know when I upload all your favorite content and so that you can jump on the live chats that we have over here, talk about astrology and a bunch of stuff. And please do check me out or check your reading out on Born Without Boundaries Tarot for your week ahead Taurus tarot card reading. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you next week.